As you guessed from the title, I built a sliding door for the new workshop. That was about time, because the past 4 months I've been in a new workshop and I didn't have one. But this will change today. Also, this doesn't count. Robin and Stefan installed this when I was sick for a week as a joke. Now it comes down. I have quite a big opening, 1.70 m wide, 2.20 m tall. This will be a big door. I have plans to build an electric sliding door that opens and closes automatically, but for now I just want to be able to close the shop, so simple sliding door for now. And I also don't have much time. This needs to be finished today. A one-day build. It's 6:50 in the morning. Let's get started. My material will be construction lumber like the one we used to build the walls, some OSB panels and this sliding door kit. It came with two 2-meter long rails, all the hangers, a bracket to connect it to, the rollers with end stops and hardware. But that's for later. I'm gonna start with building the door, which I'm gonna make about 8 centimeters longer than the opening and 5 centimeters taller than the opening. All right, 1.78 m. And the long rails will be 2.16 m. Okay, the door essentially is this big frame, which later gets filled up with OSB panels. I want to have really strong corner joints because it's a big frame and I don't want it to move or anything. The best quick way for me is using the panther router there. I got everything set up to cut one single mortise and tenon joint, but a big one with this bit here. But before we're starting, it's time for a quick breakfast. And look, since it's 8:30 now, Stefan showed up as well. And now it's almost 9, so Robin showed up. First task, coffee.
Buongiorno.
Back to work. The two outer mortises were easy to do with the stop. The one in the middle, I need to set up with the line. Right there. Okay, and now I chucked up a drill bit to drill holes all the way through so I can later use screws for clamping. But I'm not sure how much this drill bit likes the high RPM. Let's see. This worked great, but Stefan is disturbing here. That worked great, and nobody will see the holes in the end because they will be on top or on the bottom. All right, now I've set up the panther router to cut the tenons with a different bit and the big guide bearing around the template. I used an offcut to fine-tune the size, and that is a pretty good fit. So everything's ready to cut the actual pieces. The dust collection performance decreased. I wonder why. And that's all the paint roller work complete. Quick cleaning of the machine and floor, so it's ready to go next time. Okay, now it's 10:30. All the camera rearranging and talking stuff takes a lot of time. Next step is to cut a slot along the whole length in the bottom piece to install these two aluminum channels, and they will be the bottom guide of the door. I'm gonna do that with the trim router and a bit from the CNC router, because there I've got one that has little chip breakers, which will create smaller shavings that are easier to extract. Setting up my first depth of cut, like this. Let's go. Nice and centered so far. Of course, it doesn't fit yet, so I'm adjusting the fence for the next pass. Make the next pass and probably have to do 2 more. And this bit with the chip breakers is amazing for dust collection. There's literally nothing on the floor. Almost there. So for the final pass, I now test cut in the middle on both sides, sneak up on the fit, and then cut all the way when it's set correctly. Nice strong channel. Okay, and with that done, I'm ready to... Oh no, shit, I forgot something. I also wanted to pre-drill the hole for the clamping screws in the tenons. Okay, setting the paint roller back up. And I'm also doing that with a drill. Because why not? Okay, now let's do a dry assembly. I'm glad I decided for the screws to pull this together. This will be very tight with glue. And also, sanding a lead-in chamfer on the tenon end is a good idea. Okay, let's do it. By the way, the mortise is 1 millimeter deeper than the tenon is long, so there's room for glue and I don't know, so it's just space. Perfectly flush. I'm liking this screw technique. Well, I'm still sweating a little bit. It's warm in here, yeah, and I was a little bit nervous, but that went so much better than I hoped for. Ouch! Let's check the diagonals. 2 meter 86 and 8 millimeters. 2 meter 86 and 6 millimeters. That's good enough. Oh, well so far, and we have 12 o'clock. I think I can do one more thing before lunch. And that's marking and drilling the mounting holes for these aluminum channels. I think a hole every 10 centimeters should be fine. More than fine. This will be many screws. Yeah, whatever. And I'm using a centering bit for that because it's short and stable. Then of course, the chamfering bit. First outside to remove the burr, then inside for the screw head. Not perfectly flush, but good enough. Alright, holes are drilled, they're cut to length. Time for lunch. Leftover homemade butter chicken from yesterday for me. The other two guys got kebab.
Lunch break. Very good.
And also other behind the scenes stuff happens during lunch, like charging microphone and camera batteries, general cleaning of the shop, or answering emails. You know, just stuff. But now lunch is over and we need to finish a door. The glue is drying for a bit more than an hour and I could remove the screws now, but I let it dry a little bit more and get my OSB panels ready, which will take a little bit because they're buried underneath all this. First I'll cut them to length and then to width. 2.9 meters. One mark here, one mark here. Aligning the saw track and cut. Okay, will it fit? Yep. That fits. Good. Let's make 3 more. Definitely the most labor-intensive part of the build. I'm sweating quite a bit, but the panels are cut to size. That's what matters. But you may wonder, how do I now mount them in here since they are cut to that size? Well, that's the part where I also tried to put a little bit of design into the build. I'll mount strips of wood around the entire inner frames to give me a place to screw the panels to. And it'll be sized such that when the panels are mounted, they sit a little bit below the outer surface and then 2 chamfers will meet. Very simple to build and just adds a little bit of detail to the construction lumber OSB construction. But of course, the board I want to cut the strips from is in the bottom of the stack here. Yeah, this will be organized soonish. 6 strips should be enough. Strips go in here. By the way, it's 2:30 p.m. now. I'll mount them to the frame with screws every, I don't know, 20 centimeters. With a fence set up at a drill press and a bit with a mounted countersink, it should be pretty quick to drill and countersink all the holes. After drilling all the holes, I made this little jig that puts the strip at the right spacing, so it's the same from both sides. Like this, I can just screw them down now. Alright, that's mounted all around. Next comes the design part, which is cutting the chamfers on the inner frames and the OSB panels. That's the chamfer size here. On the OSB it's a bit smaller. Alright, now everything is chamfered and clean again. Next I can install the aluminum tracks and then start hanging the railing, because it's 4:30 already. Oh yeah, and of course remove the screws before. I've got 4 meters of rail in total, which I don't need. I only need 3.50 meters, so I mark both of them to 1.75 meters and cut both of them shorter, because then I have the same spacing for the mounting brackets. But unfortunately, that's as far as I got today. It's 5:40 p.m. and I need to head out to badminton training now. I have no choice but set a new goal. Let's say tomorrow before lunch, it's finished. No, it's not. Training's over, it's 9:40 p.m. I'm back real quick to offload footage and start a print for tomorrow. But now I'm going home. All right, it's 7:20 the next day. Let's continue with some fresh energy. With fresh energy, there's actually no coffee inside. Now a problem is that my door thickness is much more than the intended max thickness for this rail kit, so I can't mount it with the right offset from the wall. But fortunately, one additional OSB thickness will fix that. Okay, that's up, and I put the screws always roughly at the places where the mounting brackets will be. And now to figure out the right mounting height of the rail, I stand up the door and then put two 6mm pins underneath as floor spacing. And better clamp it secure. And like this, looks pretty good already, I think. But with the door fixed like this, I can now look at this dimension from the plans, which says h plus 125, so h is the height of the door, plus 125mm, and that's the place for the mounting holes. And I checked that by kind of setting this up here on the table, and that's more or less 125 as well. So now going up there, I can set up my measuring device and make a mark at 125. Yeah, I have to do this with two hands. So 125 here. And I can set my crossline laser to that height. But before I start mounting stuff, breakfast. I've got 3 mounting brackets per rail plus the connection bracket, and the first one should be 75mm from the end. That gives me then a distance of about 55 centimeters between the brackets, so I'm now just going to mount all the angle brackets with that spacing to the wall. Okay, now I can slide all the mounting brackets onto the rail and the connection bracket halfway. And clamp it tight. And now, mount it. Let's do it. Right now all the brackets sit quite loose, but like the middle bracket I can also clamp these. Just have to unscrew this a bit, and then I can turn the mounting bolt until it clamps against the rail. Now this is solidly mounted to the rail, but still adjustable in the mounting angle. My camera dropped down. Once more. Unclamp, tighten against the rail. Retighten, and done. That's the door thickness. It will hang centered in the rail. So there's a little bit of gap now between the wall, and I have this amount of adjustability. That looks good to me. And I'll tighten the middle bracket to a random position, but with about 8mm gap for the door to the wall. And now adjust the other brackets, matching the middle one with the help of the laser and one of the rollers. They came in pieces like this, but are pretty straightforward to assemble. The door will hang off of this bracket, and with this bolt has still quite an amount of adjustability. I now slide in one of the rollers and bring it to the middle. There I put tape and a mark where I can now adjust my laser to. Like this, and now I can slide the roller to each mounting bracket and adjust until the laser hits the same spot. That was pretty quick and simple. Oh, but it's already 10 o'clock. Let's move on. It's a sliding door, sliding on the floor. The instructions tell you how far in the mounting brackets need to be, and for my door size, that's about 35 centimeters. In no world is this centered. I should have drilled both of these holes before assembling the door frame, because on both of them the drill bit wandered, fortunately by the same amount, so they're still usable. Got the rollers roughly in place. I think I can now stand up the door, let it lean against there, put the screws in the rollers and then lift the door up with them. Now adjusting these. And lift off. Sliding, still scratching on the floor a bit. But it works. Now it's a bit more off the floor and no more scrubbing on the floor. Cool. Next comes the bottom guide, which I'll make from this angle bracket, a bearing, and the print I started yesterday that will ride along this track. This acts as a rubber wheel that will make things smoother and quieter. Unfortunately though, they fit too loose. I started a new print and now I have time to make the axles from some steel tubing. It's a short piece of steel tubing and the quickest way for me is to do this on the lathe. No, where is it? Grinder would have worked just fine, lathe was just quicker. Next I need to find the right mounting location for the bearing on the plate. I'm using an 8mm drill bit for the spacing to the wall. Then can slide the bearing in place. So now it's centered within the slot. Slide the door away. There's my position. And I'm threading it with M5. The second prints are also ready and fit a lot better, but unfortunately they are still too big. But instead of printing another one, I just also put them on the lathe and turn them smaller because that's quicker again. This is material with the same diameter as the bearing. I just cut a slot to make it the same width and put this over here and I'll turn it down. All right, a little bit of play is good. Damn it, it's noon, Robin brought lunch, and I'm not finished. I guess we have to switch to 24 hours until finished. Yeah, just lower the expectations. Told you so. But we can't say no to Thai food. Back to assembly. There's also a little spacer down there. And I need to shorten the screw. Okay, I screw this flush with the opening to the bottom. And the door is guided. A little bit of play is okay. Great. But with only one guide at the bottom, it can flop around quite a bit. So I made a second one that I put, I don't know, about here already. Let's try it out. Oh, much better. So far so good. It's still a bit loud, but I think it's tweakable. But next we need to install the OSB panels. On the long edge, I'll put a screw every 30 centimeters. And on the short side, every 20 centimeters. Now I pre-drill every hole with the same drill and countersink from before. The screw locations are also not symmetrical. I made them such that the screws are not interfering with the opposing panel. All right, and the last thing I wanted to do with the panels is paint them so they look more like a door than the wall. although this eventually will also be white. Now it's 3 o'clock. While the paint is still drying, I can take a look at the railing and try to get it quieter. As you can see, there's a movement between the track and roller. And the noise is definitely metal on metal rubbing, so let's get the rollers back on the bench again. Like a train wheel, these rollers have 2 flanges that prevent them from falling out. But because of this play, the flange can really rub against these surfaces, and that's creating the noise. When the roller is centered in the track, these flanges don't touch the track and then it rolls silent. There's just this extra amount of play that prevents that from happening. So if I can add some kind of a guide that ensures that the roller stays centered, it should stay quiet. Just putting grease on there wouldn't be a good long-term solution because the rubbing would still happen and eventually the grease would mix with the metal shavings into a grinding paste, and then you have a bigger problem. Ideal would be 2 more rubberized bearing guides that guide the whole roller side to side. Unfortunately, that's not possible without rebuilding more of the stuff here. But another simple idea, I could just draw in CAD, send to the 3D printer, and while that was printing, head home for dinner. Now I'm back and the printer's done. It's basically just a shim left and right to take up the slack and extends on the sides to screw it together and keep it in place. Will it work? Well, it fits, but... oh. The roller would run centered now, but it's also no longer touching the rail because my print is touching the rail before that. But that's fixable. I also had to sand down the sides a bit. But now, that's a lot better. It would have probably also helped if I'd clean the tracks before installing everything. Definitely stuff you don't want in a smoothly running track. Original, modified. Definitely better. And while the printer is busy printing the next parts, I can install the end post that the door will close against. Since I made the door 8 centimeters wider than the opening, both sides will overlap by 4 centimeters. And that's where I'll screw this piece to. Just have to decide on a height. Let's say up to there. I'm okay with that. Can always make it shorter if it bothers me. Well, I got a position and clamped, but to reach these screw positions, I of course have to move this cabinet. It's not on wheels. I have to pull everything out. Then it's light enough. Great. In this closed position, I can also install the end stop that came with the kit. For the fully open position, I'm waiting until the printer's finished. In the meantime, I can make a bottom guide for the door closed position, because there obviously needs to be one. So I built another one of these bearing guides, but this one is different because it sticks out past the wall here. And that's so the door gets guided before it passes the wall here and cannot bump into it. The new prints are now also ready. Well, it is slightly better, but not that great. I think the only way to really improve it is to rebuild the rollers and make them not steel on steel, but some kind of hard rubber riding in the tracks. But not now, maybe in the second channel video. It's also 9 PM already. I'm going home now and install the panels tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Very happy with how that paint turned out. And we are closed. Wow. It is a lot heavier with the OSB. but it's okay smooth. Very nice so far, although the rest of the wall doesn't really look finished, like what is this and all this. There's no surrounding frame outside like on the other guy's doors. But I'll leave it like that for now, because right now we are within the 24 hours. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I eventually want to build an electric sliding door. And when I do that, also build a second wall in front so the door can slide in between two walls. And I get this wall space back, and then also the rest here would be closed off. But yeah, not now. The important part is that I can now close the door so the other two guys can't hear me anymore, because Stefan sucks.